Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And let me join with you in welcoming our students from Tutorial High School. And I do trust that they will enjoy these debates. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 did not come as I had expected. And from that standpoint, I must express my grave disappointment. From the outset of the budget process in June of 2024, which began with a circular from the Office of the Finance Secretary, I had hoped for a shift in the consultation process, a shift away from the outdated, archaic practice of engaging solely with government agencies and party supporters, and towards a more inclusive and meaningful dialogue with all stakeholders and the people of Guyana. Mr. Speaker, I distinctly remember sharing my views with individuals who I believe have influence over the Commander-in-Chief, with the hope that his leadership would reflect the promise of a departure from the divisive and partisan practices of the past. Unfortunately, what we see today is not the one Guyana he claims to want. Instead, it is a one-sided Guyana. We cannot speak about unite.
Honorable member, I don't want and don't like to interrupt, but a good attempt. We know who the Commander-in-Chief is, and you're actually now criticizing the action of His Excellency the President, and we have standing order which deals with the actions of judges and the President, right? Not subject to such comments.
Thank you for your kind guidance, Mr. Speaker. Guyana is right now a one-sided Guyana. We cannot speak about uniting our people while actively excluding the political opposition forces from meaningful participation. We cannot champion inclusivity in public while engaging in divisive and harmful behavior behind closed doors. The One Guyana slogan, which is pirated from a second to non-political opponent, the PNCR, can only be meaningful if it is accompanied by genuine inclusivity, mutual respect, and a real commitment to collaboration. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be truly one Guyana when selected communities with supporters of the PPPC getting economic upliftment by way of materials to build chicken pens and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash grant distribution to open and expand their small businesses, while other communities are kept in economic stagnation with no financial assistance. Rather, one or two paved roads and a couple of lights on their playgrounds. Why is it that places like Ganamstel, Bagotville, Iflot, Shortville, Sisters Village, and so many others are not in receipt of the same treatment as places like Wakenham, Legwan, Tushin, Parika, and Leonora? Village shops exist in these Afro-Guyanese communities too. But the owners of shops in these communities never in the last 4 years got any cash grant to help them economically. Why is it that hundreds of thousands of dollars in assistance were given to cash crop farmers who look like me and suffered by way of flooding, but thousands who look like Honorable Ministers Todd, Ben, Edgell, Waldron, and McCoy are still begging for a small piece? Added to this is also the discrimination, where several ordinary, poor, hard-working Indo-Guyanese equally awaiting their assistance. Poor, hard-working Indo-Guyanese fisher folk are still awaiting their financial assistance. And Honorable Sheriff Duncan would recall that several of them told us that their names are on the list of recipients, but they never got any of the monies. Fisher folk from Metamirsorg, Salem, Wales, Vredenhoop, and several other villages, but all the big fisher folk received millions. Small rice farmers are still waiting for their little assistance, while the big farmers collected millions. Mr. Speaker, we are living in a one-sided Guyana. The rich versus the poor, the connected versus the neglected, the friends, families, and favorites of the PPPC versus the rest of us, and where the government is facilitating the growth of oligarchs. It was Henry Truman who said, sir, you cannot be in politics and get rich without being a crook. Mr. Speaker, if Budget 2025 had been the result of a truly consultative process, one that involved a wide cross-section of Guyanese stakeholders, ordinary citizens, community and religious leaders, civil society organizations, and the opposition, I am confident that it would not have been a document of intellectual circumcision laced with mendacious propaganda. It would have been a budget that made every Guyanese proud, as opposed to a document that reflects limited input and falls short of the transformative potential. Mr. Speaker, as politicians, we must recognize the urgent need to chart a new, different, and more secure approach to governance. At a time when our nation stands on the brink of unprecedented economic growth, we have a responsibility to move beyond the political and economic stagnation of our past. Guyana is no longer a poor third world country. We have the resources and the opportunity to rewrite our story, but that requires bold leadership, mature decision-making, and commitment to inclusivity and equity, which seems to elude this government. Democracy demands opposition participation, yet this government has repeatedly excluded 49% of the population from decision-making processes, seeking our support only when it suits their convenience, like during the Guyana-Venezuela crisis. This selective engagement is not democracy, it is double standard. The oil wealth we now possess can either propel us to greatness or doom us to regret. That choice depends on how we govern. I assure this nation, here and now, that with us in government, the opposition in the name of the PPPC will be a part and will be parcel of the formation of budgets, because they too, though in opposition, must be heard, for Guyana belongs to all of us. A true united Guyana requires the inclusion and genuine participation of all. Building roads, bridges, and other infrastructure projects are necessary, and any government can do that. Those blueprints have existed for decades. The PNC government, in its 28 years of government, built several roads and bridges, constructed several multilateral schools, provided free education from nursery to university, built several hospitals, promoted agriculture, and pushed for the grow your own. The PPPC in their 23 years built the Skeldon Sugar Factory, built some schools too, and engaged in several wrongdoings. The APNU AFC in their 5 short years did way better than the PPPC's 23 years. All of these years went by without any oil money, but the last 5 years provided a fiscal space for lots and lots more. This regime sadly is not embracing true development. True development, sir, requires more than concrete and asphalt. It demands a shift in our political dynamics and attitudes, embracing greater transparency, stronger accountability, and a willingness to lead with inclusiveness and unity. Mr. Speaker, since I have known myself, the political climate has been one of confrontations rather than compromising and finding consensus. That needs to change. The emergence of oil wealth has only exacerbated this situation. The PPPC needs to stop conveniently ignoring their 23 years of mismanagement in government pre-2015, during which little or no transformative development occurred. Today, instead of focusing on the pressing needs of our people, we are subjected to endless unfair comparisons, buttressed with questionable statistics between a pre-oil era and the present oil-rich economy and reality. This is neither constructive nor reflective of the leadership we owe the people of Guyana. If the government cannot rise above pettiness and division, we risk squandering the tremendous opportunities before us. Mr. Speaker, the people of Guyana deserve better. They deserve a government that acts in their best interests, not one obsessed with unfair comparisons or scoring cheap political points. It is time for us to adopt a governance approach rooted in transparency, accountability, and genuine unity for the sake of this generation and those yet to come. The current crop of APNU AFC leaders is committed to leading with unwavering transparency, accountability, and a genuine sense of unity. I am confident in this assurance, particularly considering our current stance on the composition of the national and regional tender boards of this nation. It is our strong conviction that there must be an opposition representative on all tender boards, where billions of dollars flow through daily. If we are to ensure the highest standard of transparency, the presence of the opposition on these boards would reduce suspicion of misconduct and the pilfering of the people's money, as their oversight will contribute to fairness and vigilance. Regrettably, the current government, with only 10 months left in office, does not share this view. As a result, the people of Guyana will rightfully remove them from office for their own good and the future of our nation. And when they are in opposition, we in government will ensure they have a presence on all state boards and commissions. In any democratic society, checks and balances are paramount to ensure there are no policies for public pilfering and cronyism. There is no policy for PPPC, public policies and public pilfering and cronyism. Mr. Speaker, such mechanisms exist in nations led by governments genuinely dedicated to their people, and they must become a cornerstone of governance here in our beautiful Guyana. The PPPC has a golden opportunity to do the right thing, but after 5 years in power, we continue to witness a blame game that undermines the necessary steps toward real progress for everyone, especially our ordinary, hardworking, tax-paying Guyanese, and not just for the elite few. When it comes to accountability, the APNU AFC has already signaled our unwavering commitment to strengthening the Auditor General's office. We will not stop there. A thorough review of the Audit Act will be undertaken to ensure that the Auditor General's office is empowered to conduct audits that go beyond the mere 10% of any agency's expenditure. In cases where significant malpractice or questionable findings arise, we will demand a deeper investigation. If proper explanations are not provided, heads will certainly have to roll. We will not engage in empty rhetoric, making public promises of accountability whilst secretly socializing with those who should be held responsible. Unlike this government, we will not call for early in the morning 5:30 meetings to stage a performance on accountability, only to let matters languish months after. We refuse to paint a Shakespearean display of concern for accountability while nothing tangible is ever done. It has been years now since the Metamere-Zorg, Charity, Podroin, Bellevue, and Blackbush Polder pump stations, accounting to billions of dollars, where millions upon millions were paid to contractors and several other critical infrastructure, but remain incomplete. And in many cases, at the sites, there is no work. But do we see anyone, more precisely Honorable Zulfikar Mustafa, being held accountable? The 5:30 meeting was a sham, Mr. Speaker. We see every day how SUVs continue to break the law by having blue and red flashing lights with sirens on the road, disrupting the smooth flow of traffic, among so many other issues in the Guyana police force, with the Brutus scandal taking front stage. But has anyone been held accountable? More specifically, Honorable Robertson Ben. The 5:30 meeting was a sham, Mr. Speaker. Look at the matriculation rate in our school system. It was at 49% in 2020 when the APNU AFC left office. Today, with billions more and monies invested in the sector, Honorable Priya Manikchan has it at 26%. Was she or is she being held accountable? The 5:30 meeting was a sham, Mr. Speaker. A doctor from the Timeri Health Center had to appear on camera and tell this nation that in 2025, there is no Panadol at a health center. Inhumane working conditions. Was Honorable Dr. Frank Anthony held responsible? The 5:30 meeting was a sham, Mr. Speaker. There is a $15 billion office complex where over $7 billion is already spent, but still no one can locate where the structure is. I know Honorable Annette Ferguson is looking all over and can't find it. Roads are being constructed poorly, no consideration for sidewalks. Hundreds of millions of dollars were spent on a third-hand boat that continues to burden this nation with huge maintenance costs and constantly must be moored for maintenance. Several contracts awarded via hand-picking contractors. But do you see Honorable Ejil or Indar being held accountable? The 5:30 meeting was a sham, Mr. Speaker. We see the abuse of the procurement system, where several contractors are awarded contracts and they have not been evaluated as the lowest and most responsive bidder. Several engineers have complained about being instructed to use the three-coat system by way of calling in 3 or at most 5 contractors and let the 5 of them bid for the projects, with the guarantee that the 5 projects will be shared among them. Mr. Speaker, is that what the procurement law was intended to do? Certainly not. But do you see Honorable Ashni Singh or the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board Chairman being held accountable? That 5:30 meeting was a sham, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Todd got very upset when Sherrod Duncan, honorable member, spoke about the Venezuela issue. But he, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, is not calling a meeting of the Foreign Relations Committee. Guyanese want guidance, and leadership on this matter. But Mr. Todd, honorable member, is silent and wants us to shut up. We as a unit agreed to several actions, which included regular meetings for updates and to maintain a together approach on this matter. It is not happening. Do you see Honorable Todd being held accountable? That 5:30 meeting was a sham, Mr. Speaker. We read in the press that the Attorney General was going to appeal a decision which awarded only $24 million to the family of the late Quindon Bacchus. We remember the infamous Vice News recording with Sue. Who Sue? Sue? Who Sue? Mr. Speaker, that 5:30 meeting was a sham.
Okay, with respect to a meeting happening at 5:30, there is only one that I know of. So you'll desist from now because 418 talks about the conduct of members of the National Assembly, the President, and judges being raised here except on a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I cannot leave out the mendacity of the Ministry of Housing and Water. Sir, we have complaints from over 15,000 people not knowing where their lands are. They paid in full, but still don't know. Did the ministry really give out 40,000 plus house lots? No, they did not. Sir, I believe Honorable Gail Teixeira is tired fighting with her colleagues for them to just do the right thing. And I believe she has been fighting with them all her life just to get them to be honest, decent, and transparent. Sadly, she is getting nowhere with that. She may very well be retired from politics and they still will not be honest, decent, and transparent. In relations to the Public Accounts Committee, we will reverse the decision that weakened the quorum requirement and ensure that more frequent meetings are held. These meetings will be in step with current realities and aligned with the most recent Auditor General's report. Unlike the current regime, which continuously evades true accountability, we will stand firm and embrace our responsibility to the people of Guyana. The new government in November of 2025 will usher in a new era of genuine unity with a significant increase in resources allocated to the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports. This will be aimed at fostering stronger social cohesion and ensuring greater participation from all sectors of society. Let us not forget that the current regime has consistently excluded the opposition from key events that are meant to promote national unity. For every flag-raising ceremony held under this regime, we were often invited only a day before, with no consideration given for travel or accommodation, particularly when these events took place in remote regions. And we all know, as every Guyanese does, receiving an invitation a mere day before makes it clear that our presence was never truly desired. This is more than enough for us to recognize that unity has never been a priority of the People's Progressive Party government. The days of petty political games and tit for tat will be over. A new era is on the horizon, one focused on a renewal of national spirit, dedication to unite our people and for the greater good of a great nation. Guyanese, take note. The endurance of this current regime is limited to just 10 more months. What we are longing for, a truly united Guyana, is fast approaching. Mr. Speaker, last year I did not speak in depth on the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, primarily because it was only fair to give Honorable Sonia Parag the chance to prove her worth. Unlike my friends on this side of the house, I had to ensure that I fulfill that promise, because we will keep our promises. And today, 1 year after, Comrade Speaker, 1 year after, I believe Honorable Sonia Parag deserves an A grade. I honestly do believe that she deserves an A grade, sir, for being the most incompetent minister in the history of ministers at the ministry. From my research, sir, even previous PPPC ministers were achieving their targets, except for the immediate past one. No target that was set by this ministry was achieved under Honorable Sonia Parag. The local government sector strategy, not achieved. The completion of a sanitation sector plan, not achieved. Establishment of the monitoring and evaluation framework, not achieved. Completion of the ministry's strategic plan, not achieved. Completion of the regional strategic plans, not achieved. Training staff in specific areas targeting 760 staff, not achieved. And as per their manifesto promise, substantially increasing the subvention to NDCs and tongues, not achieved. Mr. Speaker, we left in 2020 with the subvention for NDCs and municipalities at $5 million and $18 million respectively, and the City of Georgetown $30 million. In addition to the Georgetown Restoration Program, which saw a clean, green Georgetown restored to the Garden City. Today, in 2025, there is no increase in those subventions, and Georgetown is back to being the garbage city. The target of a clean city and modern municipalities and NDCs are not achieved, and these are among every other target that they were all not achieved. Mr. Speaker, we are committed to municipalities and NDCs. That in our first budget, we will double the subvention. We did it before, and we will do it again. We are committed to overseers, chairs and vice chairs, councillors, a significant increase in your salaries and benefits. We did it before, and we will do it again. We are committing to the national pathway workers to create an avenue for them to develop their skills and truly have a pathway to real development, not to just be stagnated at $40,000 for 10 days. We will reopen the Bertram Collins College of the Public Service and develop programs to incorporate those very pathway workers for their smooth entry into the public service, where they will be able to be at the pensionable establishment so that they can get a better salary, and at the time of retirement, a pension for their continued survival can be guaranteed. We will develop a structure for the regional economic transformation program and explore the feasibility of a recycling plant for our country. Once feasible, a countrywide campaign to educate our citizens on separation of waste, sir, and the utilization of solid waste via recycling for economic and environmental benefits to our country. Yes, we saw some work done on the Parika market, and we saw some work done on other markets. But sir, let me tell you about the Parika market. Mr. Speaker, can you imagine, after spending over $700 million on the Parika market, thinking that the country would get a final and finished project, vendors, ordinary people of Guyana, vendors who sell, who ply their trades there, are now instructed that they must do all the electrical work for their respective stalls. And if they cannot afford to do it, their stalls will be taken away from them. A vendor, Meena Rampasad, told me to call her name, and along with several others, cried in front of me because of this move, said to me that business is slow, people are not shopping like before, and every essential for basic survival is expensive. How do they expect me to survive, Mr. Ganesh? My response to her and all the others was to bear with us for a few more mornings. Long time done, short time left. Ordinary people are crying out, Mr. Speaker. The pressure is real. The reliefs are too small, and the government just don't give a damn. Mr. Speaker, several promises were made by this regime to the people of Guyana, and they have not begun to see the light of day. Let me list a few for you, sir. One, on page 49 of their manifesto, pass campaign financial legislation. Where is the campaign financial legislation, Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs? Where is it? Ensure that the procurement laws are rigidly upheld. Do we see procurement laws rigidly upheld in this country, Comrade Speaker? Ensure non-interference by the executive in the work of the constitutional bodies. I wish we can agree with that.
I agree with that, and I want to ensure that you can continue. Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much. Comrade Speaker, I do move that the honorable member be given 5 minutes to conclude his presentation.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Honorable member, you may continue and conclude within 5 minutes.
Create a non-partisan national youth corps. Where is the non-partisan national youth corps, Honorable Suresh Singh? Sir, provide a special fund for the upgrade of sports and cultural facilities. Where is that special fund? Ensure that each region has a premium multi-purpose sporting facility that could be used for multiple events. Where is it? Where is it, Comrade Speaker? Support trade unions in training and development of workers. Where is the communication with trade unions and the government? On page 22, sir, for oil and gas, establish a regulatory framework which is independent of politicians. The PPPC said to us in their manifesto, which they claim the people voted for them and that they have delivered everything. They said on page 22 that they will establish a regulatory framework which is independent of politicians. What are you doing in here, Honorable Vikram? You are not a politician. Leave. That is what they're telling us here in their document. Engage in renegotiating the oil contract. Where is that? Where is the process for renegotiation? You said it in your manifesto. Training of thousands of Guyanese at every level to create a national corps of managers and workforce to chart the future direction and effective management of the oil sector. Where are they, Mr. Speaker? But I have to take the opportunity, sir, to respond at this point in time to what Mr. Joseph Hamilton said, Honorable Member. He said the opposition member spoke on oil and gas, but the AP and UAFC trained no one to enter the oil and gas sector. They trained no one to supervise oil. They did not train a single occupation, safety and health expert. Sir, there's a reason why the PNC doesn't want him anymore, and I'm going to tell you that reason, sir. Sir, let me tell you, it is reported here in December of 2019 that Guyana's senior health and safety expert inspectors training program was held in Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Neville Nichols and Mr. Royden Kroll were two beneficiaries. Saw another one is here that was held in November of 2019. The headline is More Successful Guyanese Delegates in Health and Safety Training. So look, this is 2019. 2019, Honorable Joseph Hamilton. 2019, they went to Trinidad and they were trained in oil and gas, in health and safety. So that is why, Mr. Speaker, we do not wish to have Honorable Hamilton back on our side. He is mendacious. Mr. Speaker, I listened intently to Honorable Hamilton's rambling about the coalition not training anyone to provide oversight on the oil and gas and health and safety, and could only arrive at one conclusion, Mr. Speaker, and that is either the Honorable Minister has been grossly misinformed or he is grossly misinforming the Guyanese people. Mr. Speaker, here are the inarguable facts. First, Mr. Speaker, in 2019, before the first barrel of oil was produced, the coalition took the prudent and proactive step to initiate a collaboration of the EPA, Department of Energy, the Mexican ambassador, and the World Bank to set up a strong oversight body for oil and gas. The World Bank provided a grant of $1 million, US dollars that is, to bring in a Mexican consultant who had set up the Mexican oversight program to lead the setting up of the EPA unit. The consultant made several trips to Guyana, which were highly publicized, including interviews with the news media. This effort resulted in a World Bank EPA document dated October 25th, 2019, before first oil, establishing a petroleum unit in the EPA comprising of 36 members, highly specialized and experienced petroleum staff, including health and safety professionals with responsibilities to include 24/7 FPSO on board presence. Mr. Speaker, in concluding, I say to my honorable friends on that side of the house, oh fighting men, farewell, farewell. In order for Guyana to grow, Mr. Speaker, the PPPC must go. I thank you, sir.